Angela Lansbury died a few days ago, and I'm still shaken by it. See, here's why. And I think one day this will make it on its way onto the blog, but not right now. Angela Lansbury was the spitting image of my grandmother. Like, if you put the two of them side by side, it was nearly identical. To the point where my grandmother used to say that she was Angela Lansbury, and that, on those days of the week when I wasn't with her, she would duck up to Maine, as if that's a quick drive around the corner. I would go to Maine and solve crimes, and we could watch them because people recorded them. And I knew it wasn't real after a while. When I was little, 4, 5, and 6, it was totally a thing. But it became a running joke after that. And it always felt to me like, as long as Angela Lansbury's alive, and she'll live forever because she, was in her upper 90s. As long as she's alive, there was still some connection to my grandmother. And now there isn't. I thought about canceling tonight. I really did. I really thought about canceling. I really thought about, just kind of folding up and saying, hey, you know what, whatever. I'll see you guys next week. But I'm not. I'm here. Maybe a little bit more subdued than I was last week. But I'm here. And I'm looking forward to answering questions. I'm looking forward to talking to people. I'm looking forward to doing this to the best of my ability. I hope you're well. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, by the way, I hope you're enjoying the new host, because everything is running like a million times smoother. You might not even have noticed things have changed. I'm guessing hopefully you haven't, but infinitely smoother process, infinitely better way to go. I'm much happier. They're happy with me. It's just a matter now of finding some good sponsors to get things going. But if you're out there listening to the podcast, I would really appreciate if on wherever you are listening to your podcast, you could leave a review. If you're liking what you hear, the two best things you can do, leave me a review and check out the Patreon, patreon.com/John Helps You Write Better. Those two things, man, they make all the difference. If you're digging this, I hope you keep digging it. If you're new, welcome. You've come on board at a pretty interesting time. I hope to make it worth your while. All right, let's do this today, shall we?
All right. Just remember what I've taught you.
The fuck is that?
Hey, yo.
Let's go while we're young.
So, hi. Oh, the camera's over here now. Hi. I hope you're doing well. I hope your week's been good. It's nice to see you. It's good to be here. I hope you're ready for this. As I said in the intro, I'm kind of subdued right now, but maybe we'll see if some of these questions can perk me up a little bit, because, I don't know if we're going to get spicier than we got the other day, but we'll certainly give it a try, won't we? You ready to do this? Let's do that sweet, sweet intro. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, doers, dreamers, planners, plotters, enthusiasts, hopefuls, theater kids, anybody who's ever loved their grandma, lovers of fine cocoa, lovers of comfy socks, Anybody who can appreciate when you flip the pillow over and the other side's really nice and cool. Anybody who can appreciate that right mix of temperature between warm blanket and cool breeze in a room. Anybody who's ever fumbled around in their pockets and found a couple dollars so that you could buy some lunch. And most importantly, the comrades. Welcome to the Writer's Chat for October the 12th, and through no fault of my own, I continue to be your friend John, who's going to help you write better. And if this is the first time you're hearing it, here's how this works. I'm going to answer a dozen questions, plus the questions from those people in chat. Hi, chat. Hi. And I look forward to what they want to know. I look forward to answering questions and just seeing where this takes us. Let's get started. I do want to shout out our ongoing sponsor for the month, Sprecher Brewery. Sprecher Brewery, maker of delightful root beer that I've already had today. But I want to tell you about a different Sprecher product. No, not the beer they have coming, although if you go to SprecherBrewery.com and beer is your thing, you might want to give them a try. But the caffeinated root beer, oh man, the caffeinated root beer. Yes, please. It is the best of both worlds. You want your root beer? Here's your root beer. You want your caffeine? Hey, look, it's caffeine. Oh, delightful. Loved it so much today. Got me through a long and winding workday. Big fan. Thanks to Sprecher Brewery. Established in Milwaukee in 1985, Sprecher Brewery is your home for all different kinds of sodas. No sarsaparilla, sorry, but loads of other things. Try a variety pack for $34.99 and definitely enjoy. Tell them I sent you. I have no promo code. I have no nothing. Just I'm a lover of Sprecher beverages. The grape soda, ooh, serve that in an ice-cold frosty pint glass. Delightful. Put a nice cold root beer in your face or pour it over vanilla ice cream. It'll change your life. Sprecher Brewery. It certainly changed mine. But I want to start today with our question. Now the camera's doing that thing again. Might be a cameraless evening again. I know what it is. It's because the camera's not plugged directly into the thing because I only have 2 ports. It's a whole plug and play thing, but here we are all the same. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I want that one. Question number 1. How many words a day should I be writing on average? It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter how many words per day you write. It doesn't matter if you write 100, doesn't matter if you write 1,000, doesn't matter if you write 6,000. It's nice to brag about on the internet, just kind of whip it out and say, haha, here are my genitals. Look how mighty my writing is. But at the end of the day, it ultimately doesn't matter because in the end result isn't so much who wrote the book the fastest or how many words did you do. It's a strange measuring contest. It gains you nothing. No one's going to care because what everybody cares about is the finished product, the finished draft, the finished manuscript, the published book, the marketing you do. Whether or not it took you, 6 weeks at one rate or 6 months at a different rate doesn't ultimately matter. So how many words a day should you be writing on average? At least 2. I mean, are more words per day better? Better than what? Not necessarily. What matters is that you're writing them every day. What matters is that you're writing consistently to the best of your ability. Not that you're racing, not that you're rushing, not that you're trying to beat out other people. You're just writing as best you can when you can. That's what matters. So don't lock into the idea that you need to have a certain number of words per day in order to be good, I'm making air quotes, good as a writer, because that's all horseshit. It's just plain horseshit. It's applesauce and mayonnaise, man. You just don't need it. Don't sweat your word count. Are you writing? Yes, no. That's all you need. Keep writing. Keep doing your best. Keep pushing yourself, definitely. Make sure you're always forwarding your craft, and working a little bit harder as best you can when you can, but it's not a matter of oh no, I had a bad day because I only wrote 648 words, not 650 words. No one cares. No one cares. It's not a thing. Don't worry about it. Okay? Good first question. John, What's the best way, question number 2. John, what's the best way to market children's books? All right, I'm going to let you in on a small publishing secret, okay? I don't know if you're going to believe this or not, but children do not typically buy children's books. Their parents do. So you want to market those books to the parents, but you're going to market those books in what's called a functional marketing as opposed to a creative marketing. Creative marketing is where you're just hitting them with like bright colors and splashy graphics and catchphrases, and there's no real sense of anything. It's just fun and light. Whereas practical marketing or productive marketing or purposeful marketing, they're all the same thing, are all types of marketing centered around the benefit this thing gives you, whatever the thing is, whether it's a book or a product or a machine or an app or a whatever. When you talk about things in terms of their practicality, talk about things in terms of their ability, talk about things in terms of the benefit it gives the people who buy it, what you're doing is saying that this thing, this item, let's just pretend it's the lens cap to my camera, this thing has utility, and you would be at a disadvantage to not own it. You want to do the same thing with your children's book. Hey, if you don't go buy Mrs. Flopsy and the Murder House Murders, or Mrs. Flopsy solves the robbery at the gallery. I'm making up Mrs. Flopsy. She's some kind of like wild rabbit noir detective. But if you're not going to sell Mrs. Flopsy and her noir adventures based on the fact that we just have a cute rabbit on the cover, that's going to draw some people in, but it's not going to draw the most people in. You want to be able to talk about your product in a very functional, practical way so that you get this sense of, why do I need this book? Because I can get loads of noir. I can get loads of books with rabbits. Why this book? Well, this particular book bridges the gap, the long, empty, definitely necessary gap between hard-boiled noir detective story as well as children's writing. So of course we need this book. And if you're going to buy this book, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get an adventure that you and your kids can read together, as well as finding out what it's like when the femme fatale is actually a homme fatale. And it's just another bunny from around the burrow who's just trying to muscle in on old Miss Flopsy as she tries to figure out who did the crime and who gets caught. Talk about things in a productive way. Talk about things in ways that will benefit other people. Not just, hey, it'll benefit me because I'll make your sale. But talk about things in terms of, well, what will this book teach my kid? What will this book do for helping them learn how to read? What will this book do for our bonding time as people who sit down and read together, because I'm trying to encourage my child to read? Think about the benefits the book gives the greater whole, and you will be, better off. Hang on a second. Better off than somebody who just comes at this marketing thing in terms of like, here's a book. It's good. It has a rabbit. $4, please. Come at it with a purpose so that you're trying to solve a problem your customer has, and you will draw more people to it, because rather than just say, it's a book, you should buy it, you're giving them more value for their money. That's how you market a children's book. Bright colors, by the way, and textures and everything do help, as do silly fonts. But that's superficial. That's the surface level stuff. You've got to have more than that. Don't just rely on the Wingdings font or whatever to really keep people's interest past the opening exposure to the cover. Good question, though. All right. Question number 3. John, what are 3 good qualities to look for with a copy editor? All right, side note, I'm not a copy editor. I could be one. I'm not a very good one. That's not because I don't care. It's just because my focus and training has always been into the meatier parts of story. But I know copy editors. Some copy editors are very, very good friends of mine. I have an ongoing text message thread with some of them. The qualities that make a copy editor strong and effective are, well, there's a lot. Narrowing it down to 3, I think, dismisses a lot of them, because copy editors come with a variety of boons and benefits. So let me just give you 3, as opposed to, they're not the only 3, and they're probably not even the best 3, but they're certainly the 3 that are on the front of my thinking and most helpful for most writers. You want a copy editor who's going to be consistent in their note taking and in their craft, meaning they're going all the way through the manuscript. They're not skimming, they're not skipping, they're not letting stuff just slide by. You want somebody who's going to consistently apply all the measures and rubrics and templates and formulae and methods and strategies that they have to your work to get the best product at the end of the day. So you want somebody who's able to exercise a great deal of consistency. Second thing, you want a copy editor who will actually answer email. There is nothing worse on this planet than trying to make a business arrangement with somebody and trying to get in touch with them is sort of like pulling teeth in the dark. You want to make sure that your copy editor is communicative. You want to make sure your copy editor is available. Now, let's be clear. They're not on call 24/7. They're not a doctor. They're not a lawyer. Nothing like that. They don't need to be, waiting by the phone to pick up to talk to you just about, the changes you want to make and naming some other character Susan or something. But you do want to be able to reach out to them and communicate with them, and you should have an easy flow of communication. Talking to them should be, nice and feasible. It shouldn't be a pile of hoops to jump through. It shouldn't feel like you are yelling with tin cans and string in order to hope that somebody somewhere gets a message and it bounces off a satellite and it kind of Rube Goldbergs their way to somebody. You want to make sure you're talking to your copy editor pretty consistently. 3, you want a copy editor who will very clearly explain the issues, not just flag them and disappear, not just flag them with the shorthand or the little symbols or the whatever. You want to make sure that if your copy editor highlights something, you know why they're highlighting it. You know what benefit they're trying to get from you. You know what the point of the highlight is. You want somebody who's able to explain those notes. There's nothing worse than just handing something to somebody, having them mark it up, and then handing it back to you and then saying, here you go, but you not being able to really know what's actionable with the notes and the edits and the feedback and the highlights and the comments. Make sure that you're able to express yourself clearly and make sure that they're able to express themselves clearly. Start with those 3 qualities: organized, diligence, communication, clarity in communication, and you will end up with a better copy edit and a better copy editor relationship than you would probably get otherwise. It's also worth pointing out that you're going to pay money for this, right? This isn't like a freebie. This isn't like a small bill. This isn't just like $65 and call it a day, right? This is somebody's job. They've got to put food on the table. They've got to, feed themselves. They've got probably a family to take care of. And if you're going to lowball them with your cheap ass bullshit, you are harming other people. How would you like it if somebody did that to you? So be aware that you're going to pay your copy editors fairly. You're going to pay all your editors fairly. You're going to pay all your people fairly. Otherwise, don't pay them at all because you're not going to do the project at all. Be aware, okay? Be a sensitive, kind, compassionate person. Give a shit, and other people will give a shit about you too. Now, are there any questions from anybody in chat? Yes, there is music playing. It's just background sound because I'm trying to drown out behind me. You can't tell, but I can hear them. There's a pile of screaming children just wailing and shrieking and carrying on. I don't know why they're outside. They're sort of free range. It's annoying and totally yanks my focus, especially in the afternoon. So I threw some music on to blot them out. Is it fall break? Yes. Yes, it is fall break. And regrettably, it's barely done. So somehow I will find a way to survive. Somehow, some way. Mostly, it's because there will just constantly be music in the background of everything. If you're looking for this music, by the way, it's the Stream Beats Lo-Fi playlist, available wherever you listen to music. Stream Beats. Here's a free plug. Stream Beats. It's royalty-free music so that your little streams and podcasts and recordings won't get flagged for, licensing issues. It's free. Use it. But yeah, it's fall break and the kids are driving me nuts already. So music time it is in the background. I hope you don't mind. Other questions? Else we will march on. I feel like somebody's going to ask me about my tea. So I'll tell you right now, it's just cheap ass red rose tea in a bag. Nothing glamorous, nothing flashy. Money's a little tight. I had this tea in the back of the cabinet, using it up. It's not bad. It's the tea I grew up on as a little kid, so it's nice nostalgia. Not super flashy, but serviceable. It is very good. It is ice cold. It's in some big chunky cup with some big chunky ice cubes. No lemon, no sugar, because no, but it's still very good. Thank you for asking. On we go to more questions. Question 4. What's an easily fixable grammar change that I can make tonight? I like that they specified tonight. That I can make tonight to improve my writing. Here we go, okay? I covered this on the blog, but I'll tell you right now. Go look at your commas. Go look at your commas and see how frequently you stick a comma before a conjunction. But, and with being usually your go-to conjunctions, right? Look at your commas. How are you using them? Are you littering them everywhere? Are you, using them, to indicate some kind of maybe, a little, pause? Question mark? One of the easiest things you can do is streamline your comma use. Just because you want the reader to insert a pause does not mean you have to do a comma. You can. It's not the end of the world. But if you're going to go comma nuts and just hurl them out like rice grains at a wedding or confetti at a New Year's party, you're going to run into trouble when your comma starts to really fracture how you want your sentence understood. So an easy fixable grammar change. This is a blanket, and we all know the danger in making blanket statements. You can probably cut about 25% of your commas without negatively impacting the flow of your story. So 1 in 4 commas, out it goes. Just give it a try. Especially, if you're the sort of person, that just wants to, put everything together, but make it sound, relatable. Just think it over. Juggle your commas around, use fewer of them, build stronger, shorter, or longer sentences. It's going to make an immediate change to your writing because it's going to make your voice clearer. Okay? Great question. Love a good technical question. Question number 5. I guess we are going to get spicy tonight. What's one part of your job that disappoints you most often? Big heaving sigh. I think I'm most disappointed, like the top of the disappointment pyramid. I think I'm most disappointed by the number of people who let price be the factor that inhibits their creativity. So you've got some people, you're writing books. It's great, it's wonderful. But you are you're doing a lot of work and you need a lot of help. And you get a quote from me on a thing, and I'm going to guarantee you right now most of those quotes are going to be at least 3 digits, if not more, on the invoice. And immediately you slam on the brakes. Now, I understand money's tight. Believe me, I am living proof that money is tight. I get it. But if you're trying to do a thing and it's important to you and you want to do a good job and you want to do this long term, why not spend that money, make that investment? Rather than excuses, make that investment that will help you. Because if you work with me flat out on your first book, the mistakes and issues you get handled in your first book, you will not make in your second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, 10th, 15th book. I'm very good at my job. When price shows up as the factor that makes somebody stop cold, it's frustrating and disappointing. Not only because, oh my God, I'll be able to, pay my bills, but also the idea of that's the barrier, that's the indicator. You weren't going to put your money where your craft is. That's the part that disappoints me, when money comes up and makes it a thing. Now, I know we live in a hyper-capitalist society that needs to be violently and aggressively dismantled starting yesterday. I know. I get it. And money is stupid and we made it up and we can just as easily not continue to use it or provide everybody with universal basic income so that we all have the ability to get, food, shelter, healthcare, clothing, and care the way we want. But until we do that, brothers and sisters, and until the revolution shows up and makes me a sandwich, then we all have to recognize that if somebody's going to do work for you, you're going to pay for that work. Now, I offer payment plans. I'm hella super flexible on splitting them up, breaking them down, working in trade, a million different things. But the most disappointing thing for me is when I say, okay, you want help with your book. It's going to be $600, $700, $1,200, $1,500. And immediately it's like I've said, oh, all you need to do is throw your baby into a wood chipper. Because it's not that. It sounds like a lot, but we can break that up. You want to break that up into $10, $150 payments? Sure, let's do it. Whatever's going to help you succeed, I'm happy to do, but that doesn't mean I'm going to slash my price out and down to nothing, because I got to feed myself. I got to pay for light. I got to pay for internet. I got bills to pay, and you have a job and you want to get paid. I got a job. I want to get paid. When money shows up and becomes the obstacle, that's what disappoints me. I've seen too many people with too many potentially good ideas get stopped short because all they want to do is complain about the money. That really sticks with me every day. Because if you go out and go look at my competition, I'm cheap. I'm not the cheapest, but I'm damn sure cheap. Now, on some levels, I'm expensive, but by and large, I'm still cheap. But when money shows up, that's where disappointment kind of comes along in the little motorcycle sidecar. Can't stand it. Can't stand it at all. I would do this job even with universal basic income. I would still help people produce books. It would be nice. It would be great. I love doing this. I'd coach. I wouldn't edit. I'd coach. But yeah, the money part of it is always a wrinkle. All right, hang on. Let me kill this music. Nope. Where's my harp? There's my harp. Gentle advice. If I were to start a new book right now, where would you tell me to begin? I assume you don't want me to just tell you to like start at the beginning of the book. I think you're asking like, where do you start your writing process? Here's where you start your writing process. If you decide you want to make a new book, let's say you say tonight, I'm going to start making a book tomorrow. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to go buy a legal pad or a steno pad or a pack of printer paper, a physical pile of paper, okay? I need you to get a pen, and then I need you to start writing things down. I'm going to need you to start writing the following things down. Anything that has to do with your story. Not scenes, though. Not dialogue, not story-specific stuff, but the abstract stuff, the big picture stuff, okay? The loose vibe, some of the atmospheric stuff, some of the titles and locations, the small little details that stick out in your head. I want you to dump them all onto one piece of paper. Just make a list. Just make a disorganized, crazy, chaotic pile of this and scribble of that. I need you to get as much out of your head onto the page as possible. And then what I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to take a nice deep breath. And I'm going to need you to be able to think about your story and be able to tell a human being about it in 1 to 4 sentences. As far as you know from the jump. I want to tell a story about a kid who discovers aliens are real. You don't have any other details beyond that. You don't need any other details beyond that. But you do need to know where you're starting from. Get it down to 1 to 4 sentences. Fewer is not necessarily better. Don't freak out, but understand that 1 to 4 sentences as a starting point is great. Take that 1 to 4 sentences, put it on that piece of paper, circle it or highlight it. Make it clear though. And then I just want you to start writing. Word, Scrivener, Google Docs, Ulysses, any other software like that. Go to whatever you want to do. Just start writing. Don't worry about scenes. Don't worry about outline. Don't worry about arcs. Don't worry about theme. Just start writing. Even if what you're writing is technically page 1 in the file, it doesn't have to be page 1 in the book. If you want to start with like, I know at some point we're going to have a scene where the government and the kids square off in a diner, write that down. If you know the climax, go start writing it. Just start writing. Just start writing. Just start writing. Okay? Over time, as you start writing, once you get that sort of first day's writing out of you, I want you to, instead of going back and being hypercritical, For the next day you go writing, what I want you to start doing is start thinking about your story as though I'm watching it on my big giant monitor. And what's on the screen? So here's the scene, right? The kids at the diner, the government guys standing there, the kids all freaked out or whatever. If I were to pause it and freeze it right now in place, what would I see? What would I see on screen? What's the kid? I mean, yes, the kid's sitting there, the government, right. But what would I see? What's he wearing? Where's the waitress? What's the weather like? Is the table clean? Is the place crowded? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Is it in the middle of nowhere? What would I see on screen? Describe that sentence by sentence by sentence. Every image. Oh, we've changed. Where are we going? Now we're in a car. Okay, tell me about the car. What would be on screen? If I were to pause it at any time, every sentence is a camera. So tell me what I'm seeing on screen. When in doubt, get it across to me so that the image in your head comes through the page, becomes an image in my head. Just do that. Just don't worry about arcs. Don't worry about plot. Don't worry about the functionality of your dialogue. Don't worry. Just no. Get the story out of your head from beginning to end. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how many days it takes you to write it. I don't care if you get super frustrated and bail and come back 10 times. None of that matters. I just want you to be able to sit down and start and keep making progress until you get to the end of that first draft. Once you get to the end of that first draft, then we're going to start talking about adding structure. Then we're going to start talking about forming the story and making it better and clearing up the holes. But that first job, the first thing you got to do, where do you begin? You're just going to dump the idea out of your brain onto the page. That's where I would tell you to start. Okay? No extra bells and whistles. No magic. Hey, sign up for my free bullshit. Just plain and simple, straightforward, get the idea out of your head. And those notes you wrote on the legal pad or the steno pad or the piece of printer paper, you're going to refer back to that every time you feel lost, every time you feel like the story's wandering way off the beaten path, every time you're not sure how you would get from point A to point B in whatever decision you're making. Go back to that piece of paper, go back to that document, go back to that notepad that talks about how you want the story to feel and some kind of elements. Jog your brain with it so that you can always keep the story feeling the way you want, no matter what actions the characters go through. That's where I would tell you to start. What a marvelous question. Thank you so much for it. Are there any questions from anybody in chat? No, nothing? Else we will march on. It's totally fine. No worries. Here we go. How do I turn a novella? Question 7. How do I turn a novella into a novel? Magic trick? I don't mean to give a flippant answer. I apologize. They're not the same thing. This isn't like, squeezing into a pair of medium pants and then putting on a pair of extra large pants. This isn't just adding more words. They're different animals. In a novella, every part that would normally exist in a novel is truncated. Not just given fewer words, but also given less space. So they're often less complex narrative structures. Your arcs don't require so many steps. Your theme doesn't have so many installments. Your plot normally isn't that complicated. Your bad guy's motivations aren't as twisted and tangled. Your character has a much more straightforward sort of progression across the story, in part because the novella is shorter, but it's not only that. A novella is generally thought to be more digestible in a single or one or two sittings. So the story's more palatable that way. It's framed to be read at speed. It's framed to be read over a short period of time. A novel, well, that's the sort of thing you put on the bedside table and you dip into it periodically here and there. Everything gets bigger. This isn't just a matter of taking all the elements in a novella and expanding each one of them. Oh, I'm going to add 10 more words to this and 50 more words to that. That's not the same thing. What I picture in my head is, let's assume a novel, we'll start with a novella. Let's assume a novella is a house, a small house, like a 1-floor ranch kind of thing. To turn that novella into a novel, let's call that a multi-story, what my parents would refer to as a McMansion. You wouldn't just suddenly knock out only a little bit of a wall and then just make the room longer. You wouldn't just add an extra step to a staircase. You wouldn't just, put in an extra window. You'd radically rebuild the whole thing. You'd put on numerous additions, larger structure, larger basement, more support, more walls, bigger roof, bigger everything. It would expand on the initial idea. It would expand on this idea of the little 1-floor ranch house, but you're knocking out walls and expanding and blowing it up in a number of different ways. It's the same for a novella to a novel. You're not just going to take the note in the novella and add a couple paragraphs here and a couple pages over there and a paragraph over here and this, that, and the other. You're going to have to radically rewrite it and treat it as though the novella was your first draft. And now in the novel, you're going to not just retype it. I would recommend, by the way, if you're thinking about just opening up the novella in, let's say, Word and then just mashing the keys some more, I would ask you to go one step further, be a bit more diligent about it, and rewrite it from scratch using the novella as sort of a blueprint. Because it isn't just about, I'm going to add a chapter, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add that. You're going to need to expand the internal construction, add more beats to the arc, add more beats to the theme, complicate your plot, manipulate time a little, add more dialogue, probably even add more characters. And if you just kind of slap those things in the existing framework, it's not going to feel well organized. It's very, very unlikely that it'll feel organized and come across as intentional, as opposed to something you just sort of had and then you scotch tape or duct tape other pieces to. Rewrite it from scratch using the novella as a blueprint or a base. If you want to lift certain scenes just to get the bones down, that's fine. But by and large, you're going to end up rewriting whole cloth, large sections. Don't think that you can just double the word count by fattening up the existing and you'll be fine, because it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. All right. Question 8. Will a freebie promotion affect my readership in the long term? A freebie promotion is where you give something away. Like, here's my first book. It's available for nothing on Kindle, right? A freebie is just a giveaway. Will that affect your readership in the long term? I really wish this question had specified what the long term was. That'd be super helpful. But overall, there's a school of thought. It's a very tech bro, crush it, rise and grind school of thought that says if I give something away for free early, then I am conditioning my audience to want more free things or expect free things and be less willing to pay for things. I don't agree with this school of thought. It's kind of shitty. It's kind of basically saying you don't like people, you don't trust their inherent good nature. So you have to force a financial transaction first, and then you can give free things away later. It has been my experience in both being in publishing as well as being publishing adjacent that in the long term, a single freebie given out one time, hey, thanks for signing up for my newsletter, here's a free chapter. Or, hey, here's my first book free on the eve of my second book's release or something. That that freebie is not dooming you forever. I can't really think of a freebie that would doom you forever. You'd have to give out something hugely catastrophic, I'm giving you all 22 of my previous books, so that you don't have any other commercial leverage, so that you don't have anything else to sell or offer. But a single freebie is not going to harm your readership. It's not like they're going to go, oh good, a free book, and then disappear. Presumably that book, free or not, is going to hold their attention, hold their interest, and make them want to stick around. The price tag isn't why they're there. And I think too many, particularly tech bro, financial bro, rise and grind, hustlepreneur vibes, turn the price tag into some kind of validation of quality. Oh, well, you're charging $6,000 for your thing, so you're better than the guy charging $5,000. And that's all horseshit. Like, that's just toxic horseshit. The freeness, the freebiness of it, the zero price tag, it's just a zero price tag. The content, the book, is what they're after. So don't limit yourself thinking that you're giving away too much by giving something one time away for free. It's just a book. It gets somebody in the door so that you can hit them with other offers, so that you can build a relationship with them, so that they can gain access to more material. It's how they started. And yeah, they'll say, oh, well, I was here when you were giving away the free thing. But, you know, I've gone to stores that had a freebie on their opening weekend, and I didn't suddenly stop going just because, oh my God, after the free weekend, I had to pay for purchases. I think that's an unreasonable thing to expect in others. So no, I don't think most freebie promotions will affect your readership negatively in the long term. It's not the thing you want to do every time, because eventually you will run out of freebies, or you will end up running up some kind of debt or bill or problem with trying to make freebies to give away. But by and large, I don't think it's going to negatively hamper you. Go give out a freebie and then, you know, get back to work and keep marketing. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Question 9. Ooh, is it more important that my character run into complications/obstacles, or that they definitely change over the course of the story? Ooh. Critical here is the idea of more important. Is it more important that there are obstacles, or more important that the character transforms? This is not a cut and dry question. It's very contextual. It's very much based on, well, it depends on what you're writing. I will tell you this. If your character doesn't encounter any obstacle, it's unclear what's going to make them change. And if your character doesn't necessarily change, and we can't clearly see why, then that change isn't going to feel really, I'm going to use the word legit, but I don't mean it in the same way you mean like I'm a legit writer. It's not going to feel certain. It's not going to feel solid. It's going to seem somewhat illusory, somewhat kind of like, I just made it up and poof, here it is. You want to turn that transformation into something meaningful and material for the story. And it's because not so much of what the obstacle was. It didn't matter that they had to run 2 miles in the rain versus, you know, climb 30 flights of stairs. The specific obstacle doesn't entirely matter so much as how that obstacle prompts a challenge for the character that requires them to change. But you need them both. If you just have change without obstacle, it's not really clear what's making the character change. And if you have obstacles without change, you're just throwing roadblocks in front of your character and basically watching them squirm. It doesn't really do anything. Like, you don't get anywhere for that. So you need them both. It's hard to say you need one more than the other, but I'm going to tell you that complications and obstacles tend to be good reasons for change. And change is often caused by encounters with complications, challenges, and obstacles. So I'm kind of taking an end around on this question, but it's not an easy thing to immediately answer. You need both, and one can cause the other, depending on how you want to frame it. Obstacles can certainly cause transformation, and transformation can always create new obstacles. Both are important. Great question. Any other questions? We're flying through this tonight, which is fine. I don't mind at all. No questions? Is a short, punchy writing style good for fantasy stories? Or can it take away too much from the meat of the manuscript? What a great question. Any writing style is good for any genre. It depends on what it is you're using that style for. You can have a short, punch. It sounds to me like your question is, can I be descriptive or do I need to be short and punchy? And the two are not mutually exclusive. You can be short and punchy, meaning lots of short sentences, while still being descriptive. Look at Chandler, look at Hammett, more so Chandler, McDonald, even Stout. You can do a lot with a Hemingway. You can be very descriptive in a short, punchy style. If you go too short, if you're real just fragments and terse and sparse in your language, no matter what your genre is, you can take away from the meat of the manuscript. There is no rule and there is no expectation that, you're writing fantasy, you have to be long-winded. It doesn't work like that. You can write your fantasy story in whatever mode or style of writing is comfortable for you. The only style that's a best fit is the style you're most comfortable in. So whether that means short and punchy, or whether that means somewhat languid, or whether that means something kind of bridging the gap, the only good fit writing style is the one you're most comfortable in, because it's the one that brings out your voice the easiest. Just immediately assuming that it's one or the other is not, it's not going to help you in the long term. You can be short and punchy and be descriptive. Of course, if you go too far one way or the other, you're either going to take away from the description and the meat because you're too short, or you get in here with these big, long, giant sentences, and you lose that sort of pacing and tone and voice strength that short, punchy writing can give you. It can take away, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If it's your comfortable writing space and you're not forcing it, it's probably to your benefit. And yes, there is audio here. Hi, I know you're late. It's good to see you, though. Yes, there is audio in the background. I'm drowning out screaming kids next door. Tonight's tea is just red rose in a bag, dirt cheap. It was in the back of the cabinet. I did talk about it, but it's still very good. I got 3 fingers of tea left. Starting to get more worried about length and punch than telling my story. Are you talking about length like sentence length? You're worried about sentence length and punch? Sentence length. Okay. It's very possible that you're overthinking it. It's very possible you're overthinking, because what makes somebody say your sentence is too long is not some arbitrary thing like you have 11 words, you're too long. It's how you're wielding that sentence, what it's trying to accomplish, how many pieces of material, how many images or concepts that sentence is packaged with or containing. And if you're putting too many long sentences together and it just feels cluttered, and it's less easy to parse and understand and read. When you do that, when you just sort of bloat everything because you're trying to bring in this and bring in this and bring in that, and what about this and what about that and what about this, then yes, you do slow down and your story gets less punchy. Punchy, in our term, if you're just wondering what the hell I'm talking about, is the ability to read, have a high readability, move through quickly, good tempo to your reading. You're going along and it's a pretty breezy thing. There is always a happy medium for every author. The right amount of length, the right amount of punch, a good tempo. It's flexible and variable for everybody, because that's where you're at your most congruent and your most authentic with your writing style. It's the most you. If you're starting to worry about it, one, you could always send me a paragraph and I'll be happy to tell you if you're running too long. But if you're starting to worry about length and punch instead of telling your story, put the focus on telling your story and stop worrying about length and stop worrying. Because yes, it will be something you need to fix later. Sure, later. But if you're in the middle of still putting the story on the page, get the story on the page. That's always going to be job number one. Don't fall into that trap of overthinking, like how it is I'm doing what I'm doing. I tend to hyper-focus things on this and then worry. Try not to. Just try not to. Don't necessarily hyper-focus. I mean, I know it's easy to say because I'm not the one hyper-focusing, but tell your story. If you're going to hyper-focus on anything, hyper-focus on, did I tell my story? Did I get it from my brain to the page? Did I get it from the page, from my brain to the page? From brain to page. Hyperfocus on that. Everything else is a bell and a whistle and a slider and a knob that can be adjusted after the fact. I understand hyperfocusing. I do it all the time. I take 2 pills in the morning for it. I get it. But by and large, yeah, length and punch are variable. And there's a better than likely chance that you've made a mountain out of a molehill on this. It's not necessarily that bad. You'd know if it were real bad. Like, you've got one sentence that runs on like 5 lines. If you're not really doing that, you're probably going to be okay. Good question, though. Yes, there's music in the background. I even gave them a plug. From brain to page is something I'm still practicing. Absolutely. Ignore the last few chapters. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if you're really sweating, like, oh my God, I don't think I'm telling my story, you put the priority not on the method of delivery. Put your focus on what you're delivering. If you're worried about telling your story, hyper-focusing on sentence length is not going to help you tell that story. Just tell the story. If the sentences run long, they run long. Never try and force a style. Never try to force a style. Never try to force a voice. Never try and force it because you think this is how it's supposed to sound based on whatever genre it is. Tolkien wrote long ass sentences. Well, he was a fucking dork. Like, oh, you're writing a detective story. It has to be punchy. It doesn't. There's plenty of detective stories out there that are pretty fluid in their sentence structure. No genre owns one mode of story writing. It just doesn't. Find whatever voice, whatever style is comfortable for you and hone it. Get really good at it. It's going to make a huge difference. From brain to page is something I'm still practicing almost 20 years in because I'm very good at leaving out important stuff up to the reader's imagination. The reader is never going to know a thing unless you put it on the page. They're just not. It won't even occur to them to think of it. That does not mean you have to give them literally every detail from everywhere of everything of all the time. It does mean, however, you need to be aware of, well, X is important, Y is less important. I want to make sure I have X on the page. Y, less so. Z, maybe less than that. It does require practice and focus, though. Great stuff. Great stuff. On we go. The home stretch. Question 10. If you could make 2 changes to how you run your business, what would they be? I've waited for this question all day. I'm super excited. I'm happy to tell you what 2 changes I would make because I would make them tomorrow. 1, I would stop editing. I'd flat out stop editing. And I'll tell you why. Hang on. Let's kill the music. I'll tell you exactly why. Because while I'm very, very good as an editor, I am better as a coach. I am better. I am happier talking through how to build a chapter, how to explain a thing, like what I'm doing right now. I'm happier in that space. I'm more productive in that space. It's easier for me. When I have to sit for 4 to 6 to 9 hours with somebody's text every day for a week in order to show them how to build a better thing, it is exhausting to me on an emotional level in a way I can't easily verbalize because I take in so much information, not just the mental movie of it, but the vibe they're writing in, how they feel, their mood, their atmosphere, their anxiety, their tension, their skill, their intent. All that shit comes across on the page. I've been doing this half my life. I pick this stuff up. It's pretty visible. I'd get rid of the editing because even though the editing is the thing that tends to regrettably pay the most of my bills because it leads to larger invoices, it is what I am less happy doing. I used to be very happy doing it because I didn't want to be bothered talking to people. I just wanted to produce work, spit it out, get it done as quickly as possible, collect my paycheck, and go on about my day. As I have gotten older and sober and mellow, I've wanted to talk more. I've wanted to talk more about, hey, I saw you made these 3 problems. Let's talk about how you could never make them again. Because it's more important that way, I think. It occurred to me several years ago that if instead of me just highlighting the 10 things you're doing wrong, if I taught somebody how to never do those 10 things wrong again, they'd be better off in the long term. So why don't I just do that? So the first change I'd make is I'd get out of editing. I'm still thinking about it. It will still happen. I will stop editing and move strictly and entirely just to coaching and teaching and newslettering and podcasting and all the other stuff. It has to happen because editing will kill me. The physical and mental stress it puts me is damning. Nobody should feel how I feel after you edit. So step 1, I'd get out of editing. Step 2, I'd get out of my own damn way when it comes to marketing. I am notoriously, and I know there are people listening to this who are going to give me shit, either in a text message or on Facebook or on Discord or whatever. I am a terrible marketer. I can explain marketing. I can teach marketing. But I am loath to do it myself because I don't have a great deal of respect for myself. And I don't necessarily feel that what I do is legit and valid the way that other people's jobs are. I'm not out there, fighting for the underdog. I'm not saving lives. I'm not, building a home or standing up to a Nazi. I'm just a dude who's trying to help you make better art. That does not necessarily click with a lot of people when you say, oh, you're an editor. People have a vague idea of what that is. But when I say, oh, no, I'm a writing coach, I will explain to you and fix your writing shit so that you can go make a bestseller if you keep working hard enough. That seems very abstract to people. And that abstraction and that need to justify has often led me to feel like marketing is kind of pointless for me because who would really want to listen to me? I'm not very good. I'm not this big gregarious person I was anymore. I'm fun at parties, I think. I'm pretty sure I am. But I've really withdrawn from that side of me. And it took the marketing with it because I want to get out on Front Street and say, hey, look, motherfucker, you're writing a book. Do you want to do it better? Come have a chat with me for 30 minutes. Hey, you're trying to do this thing. Let's get it off the ground. Hey, you need some help. Here's a boost. I love doing that. It's fantastic. My favorite part of the week is writing a positivity email to people on Patreon, telling them that, hey, this week's the week you can kick some ass. Here's how. Details at patreon.com/John helps you write better. But, I'd market more effectively. Actually, effectively isn't even the right word I'd use. I'd market, period. As much as I like being the sort of the secret weapon for a lot of writers, I'd like to be less of a secret and more of a weapon. I'd like to be more out there in terms of like, oh, I talked to John and he really helped. I follow these people on Instagram who very easily sit in front of a camera and say like, hi, this is how you get money from Nike, or this is how you do this. And then they always have this like, who taught you that? And they go, I follow such and such and so on Instagram. And every time I see that stuff, I roll my eyes a little because they're really badly like formed commercials. But at the same time, I just wish I had that courage. I really wish I had that courage to be serious about this, to be like, yeah, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket and I'm just going to market it. I'm hesitant to, because I'm not a grifter. I'm not like my competitors who are out there charging $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 and offering like a 3-page PDF. No, I want to sit down and work with you. So I don't market myself particularly frequently, and I don't market myself particularly well. So it's really holding me back, and it's been holding me back for ages. And I've always been the sort of guy who has to like run face first into the wall like 10 times before I realize, oh, there's a wall. So in addition to getting out of editing, because I'm no longer that cat, I'd be a better marketer. I'd be less afraid to market. That's what I'd do. Other than that, I wouldn't change a fucking thing. I love talking into this microphone. I love having chats. I love doing streams. I love my Patreon. I love the Discord. I love coaching. I love the podcast. I love all that. I'd market more, and I'd stop asking people to market for me when it's a closed loop. I have this really bad habit of casually telling people, hey, tell your friends. And then I realize that the people I'm telling, all their friends are the other people I'm telling. Like, they don't grow their social circle. There's no new blood coming in. So I'm telling everybody who's already seen my shit to go see my shit. I'd do better. I would really do better. If I wasn't so scared shitless about, like, I'm teetering on the edge of failure as it is, if I wasn't so unsure of what my next 3 steps would be, I would totally do that better. There are loads of other changes I would make, but those are the first 2. Yeah, those are the first 2. The third one, by the way, is I'd close for a whole week and I would do nothing but produce the PDF that I'm very slowly tapping out in like 5-minute chunks. That still might happen. Maybe at the end of October, I'll just close for a week so I can spend days writing a PDF. But yeah, those are the first 2 changes I would make. That's a great question. I wasn't expecting to go as long on that question as I did. Question 11. What's the difference between narrative gain and narrative accomplishment? Oh boy. Okay, let's see if we can do this in a way that's light on jargon and clear in description. Narrative gain is when the events of the story, so events of a scene, events of a chapter, something like that, the stuff that happens in the story. Narrative gain is when that stuff, whatever it is, advances the plot and or a character arc and or the time and pacing of the story. So it's the stuff that matters. Oh, this scene is a plot scene. This scene is a theme scene. This scene is a character arc scene. We've changed things. The character's gone on their way. They've improved. They've grown. They've been challenged. They're transforming. They fought the bad guy. They've learned their lesson. They've done this. They've done that. There's a tangible benefit to the character or to the plot in this scene, whatever the scene is. That's narrative gain. Something has been gained. The story has gained something in the narrative. That's gain. Narrative accomplishment is when stuff just happens in the story. You accomplish stuff. Oh, we have 3 chapters where it's this little narrative cul-de-sac. Oh, they met these 2 other side characters. They had a conversation, then they got back to the main plot, and those 2 other side characters don't show up anywhere else. Narrative accomplishment is stuff, sometimes, not always, sometimes that can get cut with no ill effect. If you were writing out what the scenes were and you were to pretend like they weren't there, like you could just cross them out and the story keeps going with no issue, then those are examples of narrative accomplishment. They're little detours. Now, sometimes, here's where things get wrinkly. Sometimes you need some accomplishment. You can't always and you cannot only be gaining. Otherwise, your story feels very rushed, very bare, very short. Even if you write like 100,000 words, it just feels very hasty. Like you're always constantly, oh my God, I got to run. That's too much gain, not enough accomplishment. But likewise, too much accomplishment diffuses and scatters the reader in terms of what the gain could be. Eventually, we'll get back to the plot. Eventually, we'll get back on track. Eventually, we'll get to the point we're trying to make. But until then, we're going over here, and we're going over there, and we're going over here, and we're back here with this and that and the other thing. Too much accomplishment slows the story down. It feels like it doesn't because all this stuff's happening, but we're not really gaining anything. Stuff's just happening. Narrative accomplishment is usually where things can be cut. Narrative gain is where things can be focused. Sometimes, though, you can have too much gain. You just have too many things in the plot. You already, 5 steps was enough. Step 6 and step 7 were extra. We can cut those. But more often than not, you'll run into a case where you have a lot of filler being narrative accomplishment as opposed to being narrative gain. You see it in writers who are unsure how to get from point A to point B, so they often invent points C, D, E, F, and G. Sometimes those C, D, F, and G's are accomplishment, whereas A and B were gains. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. If you'd like a Star Wars example. So what makes the screen, what you see in the movie is narrative gain all the way through. All those deleted scenes, and this is true in any movie. I was thinking Star Wars because it just popped in my head that I have to watch the last 2 episodes of Andor for Patreon. But all those deleted scenes that got cut, more often than not, those are accomplishment, not gain. Think about it that way. That might be helpful. What a great question. All right. The final question of our night. Holy shit. Here we go. What can I do if I don't feel accepted by the hashtag writing community? Come here. Come here. Right here with me. Right here. Into my busted ass camera. Look. It doesn't matter if the writing community accepts you because the hashtag writing community isn't a real thing. There are no dues. There's no chapters. There's no leadership. It's just a hashtag. It's just a bunch of people who occupy their time on social media trying to find a group out of the ether. If you don't feel accepted, that's fine. You're not losing anything. You're not gaining anything either by being a member. Yes, I tag posts, hashtag writing community, because that's generally the watering hole where writers appear. And I'd like to, make sure my things reach writers and their eyes. But if you're not feeling accepted, I don't know what that means. But if you're not feeling accepted, well, don't sweat it. Now, let's address this idea of feeling accepted. Who is it that you think is going to accept you? Some random people on the internet? Have you been on the internet? Have you seen the people on the internet? Like all of them? Do you think they're all going to accept you? Have you met people? Well, people are, for the most part, fundamentally good. There are some real assholes out there who are self-absorbed and disinterested in change and disinterested in diversity and disinterested in kindness and compassion. They're not in the accepting business. And too often, people who are like, I don't feel accepted, what they're saying is, I'm not getting attention. Look, if you're not getting attention on social media, that's not a sign you're a bad writer. That has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with anything. You're just not getting attention from people on social media on a platform designed for people to fight for attention. Why are you trying to fight for attention? Why are you answering inane questions about, are you a coffee drinker or a tea drinker? Do you like fall weather? Who gives a shit? How is that going to help you write your book? How is that going to help you, publish it? How is that going to help you figure out the marketing? How is that going to help you write your back blurb or figure out how to, get a cover made? Who cares if you don't like pumpkin spice? Who cares if you don't play fun little games with your 5 little internet friends? That doesn't matter. It's pointless. It's a waste of time. It's the equivalent of narrative accomplishment versus narrative gain. Narrative gain would be a hashtag writing community that teaches you stuff. Legit, straight up teaches you stuff with screenshots and notes. Not opinions, not listicles, not people sipping the tea, not just people throwing fits, not just people throwing each other under the bus, but straight up an educational tool. But that's not what social media has become. It could have been, but it didn't, because the Nazis showed up, because white dudes showed up, because capitalism showed up. But if you're not feeling accepted by the hashtag writing community, you're not missing anything. And I might even argue that if you're not feeling accepted by the bullshit hashtag, you might be doing something right. I'm a professional in this industry. I am not accepted by the hashtag writing community. I don't care anymore. There are plenty of people all up and down the writing community who don't like me. That's fine. I'm never going to see them. I'm never going to meet them. We're not going to have dinner. We're not going to hang out. They're not going to invite me over to play with their pets. Whatever. It's fine. I don't care. Some of them are still holding grudges from way back when. Fine. Whatever. That's on them, not me. If you don't feel accepted, where are you accepted? Because you don't have to be accepted on Twitter in order for you to be a writer, or in order for you to have friends, or fall in love, or get laid, or enjoy brownies, or have tea, or play a game, or whatever. It's just a fucking hashtag. It is ultimately practically meaningless, and it gets you nowhere. Don't ever worry about it. Move on. The most important thing, the whole point, is to write. The whole point is to produce your books. The whole point is to keep making your art and get better at it and grow your audience and grow your career. That's your goal, right? We talk about being a writer. We talk about doing what we want to do, yeah? No one sits down and says, you know what I want to do? I want to be real popular on social media. Maybe a few people do. But if they're doing that, they're not doing the other stuff. I'm going to focus exclusively on, having my turn in the social media barrel versus I'm going to sit down and make a book. Focus on what it is you want to accomplish. Work at it as frequently as you can to the best of your ability, as often as you can, and you will eventually get there. Very little in the majority of the hashtag writing community is worth your time, attention, or care. Sure, everybody looks like they're having a whole lot of fun just throwing somebody under the bus or complaining about the same thing for the umpteenth time. Great. While they're doing that, you know what they could be doing? They could be writing. It's that simple. If you don't feel accepted, you're doing fine. Don't worry about it. Great question. Are there any other questions? We are done hella super early. I see more people came in. Hi, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. We kind of flew tonight, and I apologize for that, but it was nice and fine all the same. Other questions, though? About anything? Else we will go to the outro. All right, to the outro we go. Everybody, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. This was a good night. A tough one for me. I'm going through some stuff. Feeling feelings. My therapist will be thrilled. But thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk about the hashtag writing community. Thanks for letting me share a bit about my grandma. Thanks for just hanging out with me tonight, asking your questions. I hope the answers help. I hope you have a good night. All power to all people. Please wear a mask. Please take care of other people. Look out for the sick. Look out for the elderly. Look out for the infirmed. Help those people the way you wish you could be helped. Always do the right thing. Do the best you can, as frequently as you can, as much as you can. The next time I'll be right here in your ears, well, here specifically, will be October the 19th for the next Writers Chat. But you can catch me every day wherever you hear podcasts by searching for John Helps You Write Better. I'm doing 30 podcasts in 30 days. We're on day, I think, 17 now. We're marching our way through. Feel free to catch up. Plenty of good content there every day. Wherever you find podcasts, John Helps You Write Better. If you want to support everything and anything I do, including and not limited to streams and other stuff, patreon.com/John Helps You Write Better will totally, absolutely help. It also gives you access to the Discord community where you can ask questions and get help and tips and everything all day, every day, as much as you want. So until next time, my friends, please, oh shit, I just clicked the button. I clicked the wrong button. So nobody pay attention to the fact that the background just slid around. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you soon. Love you all. Ta-ta for now.